Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are going to give it a couple minutes. There are just over a dozen people, so we're going to allow a few more participants to trickle in. Thank you and welcome everybody for joining. As you join, there is a poll. It's very easy questions. You do know the answer, so feel free to click those. The poll will not be up for very long. First question pertains to you. The second question, of course, pertains to your student. Not to how old you feel you are, even though sometimes I do. We're getting a good influx of people. So if you're just joining us, there's a very fun, very easy 2-question poll that should be popping up. First question is who you are. Second question is the grade of your student. Hopefully you know both answers. The poll will just be up for a moment, so go ahead and feel free to answer that. It won't be up for the whole presentation. It'll just be up right now. We'll give it up to another minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, looks like it is tapering off. So hi, everyone. My name is Christine with Appleroot Education. And thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to host the brilliant Julie Raynor Gross as tonight's expert guest speaker. Before we get started, and before we dive into that, I would love to, if you want to pull up the presentation, just share a little bit of information about us. So we here at Appleroot just want to share with you our overall philosophy, which is that we believe in kids and we believe that you can change the way that kids think about themselves by giving them that self-confidence and self-efficacy. By doing that, you can actually change their lives. Because once you get a child to start believing in themselves, it's amazing watching their skills grow in conjunction with that. So to do that specifically, we offer skill building in 3 main areas. First, we offer academic tutoring for nearly all ages, from grade school through college, and this of course includes those high school AP exams. We also offer test prep, which is what we're probably most known for, especially the college entrance tests, SAT and ACT. But we also tutor the middle school entrance tests, ISEE and SSAT, to get into those private middle schools. And we do GRE prep if you are applying to grad school. And that third one, some of you may have heard of, some of you may not, executive function coaching. This is a great standalone or supplement to other tutoring you might be doing, and it's for any kids who could use some assistance with the process side of school, from keeping things organized to planning out projects, just to making sure they turn in their assignments on time, or what I call general pre-adulting. And with all 3 of those things here at Appleroot, we are very unique in our proven and successful pedagogy, which incorporates the latest research on student cognition, memory, test anxiety, and motivation. And that all gets incorporated into all 3 of the above. But without further ado, I would love to introduce everybody to Gateway founder and president, and tonight's speaker, Julie Raynor Gross. Since founding Collegiate Gateway nearly 20 years ago, Julie has helped hundreds of students achieve admissions success. She is recognized nationally as an expert in the field and is featured regularly on TV, in print, and at industry conferences to provide insight into the current state of the admissions landscape. She received her bachelor's from Princeton, no big deal, magna cum laude, and Phi Beta Kappa. She went on to earn a master's in education from the Harvard Grad School of Education, Phi Beta Kappa, with an emphasis on counseling and university administration, and a master's in business admin degree from Harvard Business School. Understanding and empowering individuals is a special passion for Julie, and she applies her extensive training in psychology to her work with Collegiate Gateway. She's a master practitioner of the Myers-Briggs Personality Type Indicator and a certified practitioner of the Strong Interest Inventory. She has participated in extensive volunteer and pro bono work, in the fields of secondary and higher education and beyond. Amazing. I'm not worthy. Without further ado, over to Julie.
Christine, thank you so much for that kind introduction. And welcome, everyone. I am delighted to be here tonight. My background is very interdisciplinary, with extensive grounding in psychology, education, and business. I founded Collegiate Gateway in 2004, 21 years ago. We provide educational planning for high school, admissions consulting for secondary school, college, and grad school. And in addition, we provide personality and interest assessments. Tonight, we will discuss a thematic framework for understanding themes of interest for high school students. We will then use that framework to talk about how to best plan your academic curriculum, choose extracurricular activities that will help you develop and strengthen your college resume, and explore meaningful summer plans. I will do a deep dive into the current landscape for standardized testing. I will also cover how to foster meaningful relationships with your teachers, peers, and supervisors for athletics, clubs, and employment. And finally, we will take a look at the current trends in college admissions. Caroline Ferrucci, our senior admissions consultant and director of research, will be moderating questions. Please submit your questions and we will address them after the presentation. Let's start with an overview of the admissions process. The most important factors in college admission remain grades, the rigor of your curriculum, and standardized testing. Early planning of academics is critical to ensure that you maximize your opportunities regarding coursework. It's equally important to engage from the start. Qualitative factors also play a role and are mostly demonstrated through your activities. Again, early planning provides you with the opportunity to develop breadth and depth in your activities throughout high school. Here's a broad frame of reference for thinking about students' development. During the teen years, especially high school, the brain continues to mature. The coursework and activities that teenagers participate in actually hardwire connections that are important for the rest of your lives. A neuroscientist at NIH said, "Use it or lose it." Bottom line, it's important to choose academics and activities that stimulate your brain and that you enjoy. Extracurriculars can serve a valuable function in aiding students' emotional, social, and intellectual development. Let's think about the areas that your students are most passionate about. We like to approach students' engagement in high school by identifying broad themes of interest and then recommending specific activities within those themes. The goal is not to amass a long list of unrelated activities, but rather a curated list of activities that students have genuine interest in. Here are some examples of themes. The artistic theme involves the creative and performing arts. Examples of activities include newspaper, yearbook, theater, singing groups, athletics in school or travel teams, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Examples of activities include quiz bowl, science olympiad, mathletes, and research. Employment or unpaid internships. Service in your school or community. Politics and advocacy. Examples include student government or working for a local politician. And identity can be a theme, which can take the form of cultural, religious, ethnic, or gender identity. Examples are Asian Affinity Group, Gender and Sexuality Alliance, other affinity groups, houses of worship. This is an ideal time for students to use self-awareness to achieve your goals. Combine your knowledge of your personality, interests, values, and your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Another way to learn about your preferences and strengths is through assessments. I'm a master practitioner of several leading assessments. The MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, which identifies innate personality preferences and helps you understand how you prefer to interact with people, learn, communicate, lead, and work on teams. And the Strong Interest Inventory, which identifies interests in academics, activities, and career paths. I've administered and interpreted these assessments to hundreds of individuals from 14 years of age to people in their 50s, as well as to organizations. The assessments are taken online, and I then provide a session to verify and interpret the results. The Strong Interest Inventory is an assessment tool that uses the vocational psychology constructs of John Holland. The theory is that there are 6 themes of personality and 6 themes of interests, and that we are most fulfilled when there is an alignment between your personality and your activities. Tonight, I'm going to use this novel framework to think about the academic and extracurricular experiences for high school students. And you could use your themes of interest to guide your academics and activities. The terminology is very specific to the Strong Interest Inventory. Here is the first of the 6 themes, called realistic. And people who have an interest in this theme are called doers. The motivator of the realistic theme is to use physical skill. Realistic people like fixing, repairing, and building things. And the preferred environment is very physical and product-driven. For each of these themes, I will indicate areas within academics and activities that are a good fit. For the realistic theme, academics could include engineering, and examples of activities include robotics and EMT, emergency medical technician. For the investigative theme, the motivator is to analyze, ask probing questions, and satisfy your intellectual curiosity. And this theme overlaps quite a bit with the sciences. Investigative people are called thinkers. They like solving problems, conducting research, and using theoretical models, especially in the sciences. And the preferred environment is academic and research-oriented. Academics in this theme could include the sciences, and examples of activities include research. For the artistic theme, the motivator is to express creativity, and artistic people are called the creators. They like all forms of creativity, such as creative and performing arts, cooking, baking, and interior design. And the preferred environment is highly aesthetic and unstructured. Academics could include fine and performing arts, and examples of activities include creative writing. For the social theme, the motivator is to help, support, and empower other people. Social people are called the helpers. They like teaching, counseling, and guiding others, and the preferred environment is relationship-oriented. Academics could include psychology and sociology, and examples of activities include tutoring or coaching. For the enterprising theme, the motivator is to persuade and influence. Enterprising people are called the persuaders. This theme is highly correlated with business and law. In business, you are persuading people to buy products and services. And in law, you are persuading people of your ideas. This theme also involves the enjoyment of managing people and projects. The preferred environment is competitive and fast-paced. Academics could include business courses, and examples of activities include mock trial. Finally, for the conventional theme, the motivator is to organize info and data. Conventional people are called the organizers. They like organizing info into reports and data into charts and graphs. The preferred environment is organized and structured. This theme is highly correlated with an enjoyment of math. Academics could include math courses, and examples of activities include coding. Now we're going to move forward and show you how you can use this framework to identify academics and activities that align with your themes of interest. The number one factor in college admissions is your grades and the rigor of curriculum relative to what's offered at your high school. Colleges want to see that you're challenging yourself within reason. Admissions looks not only at your overall GPA, but the trend of your grades throughout high school. When we begin working with students in 8th, 9th, or 10th grades, we like to develop a tentative plan for coursework throughout high school and then reevaluate it every year. Ask yourself, where will each track in the core subjects lead in senior year? What courses will I be eligible for? We're going to look at the expectations of selective colleges compared with high school graduation requirements at a few representative schools. Selective colleges typically want to see 4 years of courses in either 4 or 5 of the 5 core subjects of English, history, math, science, and language. High school graduation requirements truly represent the minimum of what you should achieve. Here are a few examples from academically excellent schools around the country. To receive an advanced Regents diploma at Schreiber High School in Port Washington, New York, students are required to take 4 courses in only English and social studies, and they need to take 3 credits of a world language instead of 1. So you need to be aware of this at the outset. Similarly, at Palo Alto High School in California, another public high school, here are the requirements. Again, the humanities are the only core courses that meet a college expectation of 4 years. And note that sometimes elective courses are required. Pali requires 2.5 credits of electives. At Avenues, a private school in New York City, the only core subject in which 4 credits are required is English. And a few unique aspects here are HIP thinking, high intensity practice or executive functioning, a senior seminar, wellness and movement, 4 credits, mastery, a half a credit, such as in an independent study, and electives, 4 are required. The curriculum is specialized, but you still want to make sure that you are meeting the requirements for colleges. At Strake Jesuit in Houston, Texas, 4 years are required of all of the 5 core areas except language, which puts you more in line with what selective colleges expect for competitive candidates. This typically includes 4 years of each of the 5 core curriculum subjects of English, history, math, science, and foreign language, or perhaps 4 of the 5. Challenge yourself as much as is manageable without undue stress. Take into account your areas of interest and pursue the more difficult coursework in those areas. For example, if you're interested in politics, it's most relevant to take the most rigorous courses in English and history. And for the most selective colleges and programs, try to take either 4 or 5 core subjects to the terminal course in 11th or 12th grades. Here are some examples. At a school that offers APs, you could take AP Calculus, AP Spanish Lit, AP English Lit, AP Physics, and AP Government. Those would be considered the terminal courses. At a school with an IB diploma program, choose the HL or higher level in your areas of interest. And again, if your school offers dual enrollment courses, choose college courses in your areas of interest. Colleges will evaluate your courses within the context of what's offered at your high school, and they know that because they receive your school profile. At Collegiate Gateway, we help students figure out the best path forward within the web of what is offered to you. Carefully review your school's curriculum guide for flowcharts and options. As an example, here is a flowchart for pathways in mathematics at Chamblee High School in Atlanta. For college majors that require a high level of math, like engineering or business, it's important to see the path to higher level math courses by 12th grade. At this high school, there are several entryways into taking AP Calculus BC in 12th grade, the most rigorous calculus course offered in most high schools. If you don't choose the enhanced track in 8th grade here, there's another decision point at the end of 10th grade, where students can take the enhanced algebra and pre-calc course, setting them up to take AP Calc AB or BC in 12th grade. Alternatively, here is Schreiber High School's math department flowchart. There is only one path to Calculus BC, and it starts in 8th grade with the 8A Accelerated Math Algebra 1 course. After that, a student must take Math 9 honors, which sets them up to culminate with AP Calc BC in 12th grade, with even the option of taking multivariable calculus that same year. Alternatively, students could take AP Calc AB as their highest math course if they follow the Common Core path. Bottom line, your choices in 8th grade can impact your final 12th grade options, which is why we love starting to work with students as early as 8th grade to help guide them in their selections to maximize their opportunities and options. Electives are also important. Let's use our framework of the strong interest inventory to look at appropriate electives for different themes of interest. For the realistic theme, which is hands-on, you could consider engineering. The investigative theme of thinkers, consider 3-year research programs in math, science, and social science. For the artistic theme, for creators, you could take courses in creative writing, fine arts, and performing arts. For students who like the social theme or helpers, you could take courses in psychology or sociology. For the enterprising theme, take courses in business and law. And for the conventional theme or organizers, take courses in computer science or advanced math. Also consider 3- or 4-year pathways. High schools around the country offer a variety of specialized pathways in areas like entrepreneurship, engineering, research, the arts, and global citizenship. Now let's look at the other component of your quantitative candidacy for college, standardized testing. Over recent years, both the SAT and ACT have been modified, and both are now shorter, with the SAT at 2 hours, 14 minutes, and the ACT at 2 hours, 45 minutes. The SAT is adaptive by section, meaning that how you do on the initial math and verbal sections determines the level of difficulty of subsequent sections in order to produce a wider distribution of scores. The ACT has 4 sections, but science is becoming optional. How should you decide whether to take the ACT or SAT? In terms of process, typically we recommend taking diagnostics at the end of 10th grade and starting test prep that summer before junior year, so that you have some test prep before the PSAT in October of junior year. But if you have finished algebra, geometry, and trig by the middle of 10th grade, you could take diagnostics at the beginning of second semester 10th grade to get a head start on test prep. Then compare scores on the 2 diagnostics. Also take into account your fit with the 2 tests. Which felt better to you and more comfortable? Consider your strengths and interests. Are they more humanities or STEM-based? If you're not a strong math student, the ACT may be better because math is 25% of your ACT composite score, or 33% if you don't take the science section, versus 50% of the SAT. And also consider your reading and processing speed. The ACT is considered a more speeded test. There are a variety of options for test prep. You could take group courses or one-on-one tutoring, such as the wonderful options offered by Appleruth. Alternatively, you could self-study, but this requires enormous dedication and time management. The timing considerations of when is the best time to take your first test include the math coursework you've taken. You need to be proficient at algebra, geometry, and trig before you take the test. Other considerations include, what is your schedule for test prep? What other responsibilities do you have? What are your application plans for early admissions? And if you're submitting to some schools by September 1st, such as the Chicago SSEN program or colleges with an October 15th deadline, you'll want to be finished with your testing by August or September of senior year. What is the impact of testing on college admissions? There's a renewed focus on test scores by highly selective colleges. They feel that test scores are a better predictor of academic success in college, and other colleges feel they need the test scores to make a holistic evaluation. These colleges that are now requiring test scores include more and more private colleges. Currently, these include Brown, Caltech, Cornell, Dartmouth, Georgetown, Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Miami, Penn, and Yale. Notably, Caltech went from test blind to test required. And public colleges that now require testing include Ohio State, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and UT Austin. Let's now look at whether you should submit scores for the colleges that are test optional. Consider their superscore policy and consider geographic preferences. Colleges in the Southeast generally expect scores. They didn't go test optional with COVID. So if you're applying to colleges in that area that are test optional, many applicants will submit scores because they have them for other colleges in that region. In contrast, colleges in the Northeast are expecting scores because there were so many selective schools in that region. And California has a philosophy of test blind. So fewer students submit scores to test optional colleges on the West Coast. Also consider your academic interests. Look at the subscores. For STEM and business, it's important to submit, especially if you have high math scores. Bottom line, we advise our clients to do the test prep and take the test to put them in the best position possible for admissions and merit aid. And we then take a very nuanced look at our students' college list to advise whether to submit to each school. Now we'd like to discuss in more depth the impact of test optional policies, which have had such a strong influence on application numbers. First, we'll look at private institutions. On this bar graph, the darker blue bars show the overall admit rate and go from the most selective on the left, with Chicago, Vanderbilt, Williams, to the least selective on the right, GW, Fordham, American, and Chapman. The orange bars show the percent of enrolled first-year students who submitted scores. I've drawn a line at 50% submitting scores and another line separating the colleges that had an admit rate of about 10% or lower. You can see that a much higher percentage of applicants submit test scores for the more selective colleges on the left side of the graph than the schools that have admit rates on the right side from 20 to 65%. Now let's look at the test optional stats for public universities. Again, we've arranged them in increasing admit rate from left to right. We've drawn a line at the 50% submitting test scores and another vertical line separating colleges with admit rates below and above 60%. Once again, the more selective schools on the left have a higher percentage of students submitting test scores, and the schools to the right, with admit rates from 60 to 90%, have a much lower percent of students submitting test scores. We've discussed the impact of standardized test scores on college admissions, and now we're going to address the role of test scores in merit aid. The most important factors for non-need-based merit aid are quantitative, your grades and rigor of curriculum, and your standardized test scores. In addition, merit aid may take into account qualitative factors such as essays, extracurricular activities, community service, leadership roles, and academic areas of interest. Your timing of the application also plays a role. Merit aid is more often given in the early admissions round for early action or priority deadlines. So plan to apply early for the best chance at merit aid. Now let's zoom in on the trends in merit aid. This shows the average institutional grant aid from universities from 2006 to 7 to 2021 to 2. Aid doubled for private nonprofit four-year colleges and more than doubled for public four-year. Importantly, there are strategic shifts. The less selective colleges are giving more merit aid in order to attract top students who are considering more selective colleges. Let's take a look at merit aid as a function of admit rate. This graph looks at a selected group of private colleges, arranged from the highest percent of the class who had no financial need and received non-need-based aid, that's the darker blue bar lines on the left, to the lowest percent of the class who received non-need-based aid. Generally, colleges with admit rates higher than 20% give a higher percent of the class merit aid to entice them to enroll. And examples include Fairfield, Connecticut College, Case Western, and GW. This chart looks at public universities, and we see a similar pattern. The colleges who are awarding merit aid to the highest percent of the class have a higher admit rate. By the way, University of Oregon is a very interesting outlier. They give a high percentage of the class merit scholarships, even though few students submit scores, which you may remember from a previous slide, because they rely on a holistic review and take into account mostly grades and rigor of curriculum. Also, they're on the West Coast, where standardized test scores are typically not taken into account. For example, the UC system is test blind. So as you can see, it's important to do a very nuanced look, college by college. Collectively, our high school seniors have received nearly 7 million in merit scholarships from colleges over the past 5 years. This is a result of several factors. First, strong academic performance, including the following: grades. We enjoy motivating our students to be excited about learning and achieve their academic potential. Test scores. These are bolstered by terrific test prep. Other factors include high quality essays, which we work so hard on with our students, and a strategic approach to building their college list and planning the application process. A big takeaway is that merit aid can play a major role in the college admissions decision. We are talking big money. Let's look at the factors that impact merit scholarships at a variety of public and private universities. We'll start with public universities. Texas Tech clearly lays out the relationship between GPA and test scores in qualifying accepted students for merit scholarships. These range from 1,000 to 9,000 based on academics. The University of Alabama also clearly lays out the criteria. Merit scholarships require a GPA of 3.5 and range from 6 to 28,000 based on test scores. In contrast, West Virginia's merit scholarships require test scores above a certain threshold of testing, 30 for the ACT and 1360 for the SAT, and they range from 1,500 to 5,000 for in-state and 8 to 17,000 for out-of-state, depending on the GPA. Note that these are attainable test scores. For many public universities, there is a systematic, clearly described relationship between test scores and merit awards. Now let's look at a few private universities and examine their merit-based scholarships for students receiving non-need-based aid. Generally, there are a variety of factors taken into consideration, and academics remains the most important. Tulane has several scholarships that provide total cost or full tuition based on GPA and test scores. In addition, Tulane awards partial scholarships up to $32,000 annually. A total of 23% of first-year students receive non-need-based merit aid. At USC, 27% of first-year students receive non-need-based merit aid. Scholarships are based on academics as well as leadership and service. Case Western offers many merit-based scholarships. Some require additional information through applications, and for others, all applicants are considered. And some are based on your academic area, like nursing, STEM, or the performing arts. 37% of first-year students at Case receive non-need-based merit aid. Now let's look at the benefits of early planning in terms of extracurricular activities. You can pursue these activities both during the school year and in the summer. The benefits are enormous. You can deepen existing interests, discover unique new interests. Your accomplishments can help you increase self-esteem and strengthen your capacity for commitment and responsibility. And when you interact with other people, you develop your social skills and foster meaningful relationships as a result. Finally, you have the capacity to make an impact. 8th and ninth grades are the time to try new things, explore, experiment, and continue activities that have been meaningful to you. Then, by 10th grade, identify your broad themes of interest and then pursue them throughout high school to develop breadth and depth. Seek leadership positions for the activities that are most meaningful to you. Quality, not quantity. Pursue a curated list of activities that hold genuine interest. We will use our framework of the strong interest inventory to explore activities for each of the 6 themes of interest. The realistic theme is hands-on and takes place mostly outdoors. Here are examples of 3 categories for doers, both during the school year and the summer: athletics, volunteer or work experiences, and educational experiences of learning new skills. For the investigative theme, thinkers like satisfying their intellectual curiosity. 3-year high school research programs are a great fit for thinkers, and you can also participate in activities such as mathletes, science Olympiads, and Quiz Bowl. Summer academic programs offer the option of exploring new academic areas or strengthening your knowledge of an existing area of interest. And you can find programs varying from 1 week to 8 weeks or even 12 weeks. Now let's look at the artistic theme. During the school year, creators can pursue creative and performing arts through a myriad of activities. And during the summer, creators might consider organized programs in the areas of creative writing, theater and fine arts, or film. For the social theme, helpers enjoy teaching, guiding, and counseling others. And here are activities for both the school year and summer. Whereas investigative and artistic activities can be done alone, the social theme relies on collaborating and helping others. For the enterprising theme, correlated with business and law, persuaders enjoy those realms. During the school year, you can join activities such as debate, Model UN, and mock trial. And during the summer, there are a variety of academic programs as well as internship and employment opportunities. Finally, the conventional interest area is highly correlated with a love of math. Organizers can pursue computer science clubs during the school year. And in addition to clubs at your high school, there are many activities you could do on your own, such as building websites or creating apps. Summer academic programs or internship opportunities that would satisfy organizers are in fields such as coding, data science, banking, and finance. Another very important component of students' life during the early high school years involves relationships. Foster your relationships early on, especially with those who could serve as mentors and role models. In the early years, it is highly beneficial for the student to develop a strong relationship with your guidance counselor. This person is a wonderful resource about high school choices. Then in 11th or 12th grade, your school's guidance counselor or college counselor will write a recommendation that is one of the most important aspects of your college application, because the college counselor is one of the few people who can evaluate you within the context of the entire high school. Teacher recommendations also play an important role in your college application. Often the best teachers to ask are ones you had in 8th or ninth grade, and then again later on in 11th or 12th grades. They can discuss your academic and personal growth. Start developing your relationships with teachers early. Going to office hours shows teachers that you care about your academic growth. And you may even learn something valuable. In addition, you have the opportunity to ask other people outside of the core academic subjects for college recommendations. Start building these relationships early on with people who play an important role in your life, such as teachers in subjects such as art, music, business, or engineering, athletic coaches, research mentors, employers, or internship supervisors. In 11th grade, you will be asking people for recommendations, and the best recommenders are people who have known you for many years and have seen your development. In sum, context matters. Think of the wider universe in which you exist. It is important to look at context. These three items, which comprise the secondary school report, work hand in hand with each other. Your transcript will be viewed side by side with your school counselor's college recommendation and your school profile. The profile describes your high school, available courses, demographic makeup, grading system, and history of college acceptances and enrollment. And in terms of college admissions trends, you may have been following trends over the years. There are many increases. First, in the number of applicants, due to outreach to typically underrepresented groups, and continued increase in the number of high school graduates. But good news for current 8th, 9th, and 10th graders. High school grads are expected to peak in 2025 and then decline all the way to 2041. We've also seen increases in the total number of applications due to the ease of online applications, as well as increases in the number of applicants. We see increases in the number of applications per student due to the increased uncertainty about outcomes. And the number of early apps has increased as many colleges are filling a higher percent of their freshman class through binding early decision, and applicants are responding to that. All of these factors are causing increased selectivity at most top colleges. This bar graph shows the significant increase in selectivity over the last few decades, comparing the admit rate for the college class of 2010 versus the college class of 2027. So for you parents out there, what you may have considered safe colleges when you applied are more selective now, and in fact may even be highly selective, like Tulane and Northeastern. Northeastern had an admit rate of nearly 50% for the college class of 2010. That's 1 in 2 applicants, but it has declined to 6% for the college class of 2027. And the colleges that were already selective in 2005 are even more selective. For example, Duke had an admit rate of over 20% for the college class of 2010 and is now under 5% for the college class of 2027. Similarly, Vanderbilt's admit rates were 30% at the beginning of this period, dropping to under 10%. So, in sum, we recommend plan early, start now, identify your themes of interest, and pursue activities and academics that genuinely appeal to you. Engage in school. Pursue leadership opportunities in the activities that matter the most to you. Strengthen your relationships with teachers, advisors, and peers. Carve your own unique path. All these approaches will help you reach your potential and result in more opportunities. We will have a chance for questions in a moment. Feel free to schedule a 30-minute complimentary consultation with us by clicking on the free consultation button on our website, which brings you to this page in which you can click on undergraduate admissions. We also have tabs for graduate school admissions, secondary school admissions, and personality assessments. And now we are eager to hear your questions.
Okay, that was great, Julie. Take a moment, breathe. That was a lot of
Excellent.
talking. We have a few questions. I have answered a couple in the Q&A, but I've flagged a few that we will answer live now because I think everyone would benefit from those answers. So, first up is about activities and the resume and what students are involved in high school. So, do admissions officers like to see sports or jobs?
That is a wonderful question. So it is so student specific, and sports are not required to be a competitive candidate, even for the most selective schools. Sports is one category of what you could do, along with jobs or taking academic courses over the summer or extracurricular activities like clubs during the year, being in music. So all of those are equally appealing to colleges depending on what is truly a good fit for you. But I will say that jobs are becoming more and more attractive in terms of college admissions because often fewer students are actually opting to have jobs if they are not necessary financially. And colleges truly value students who have the responsibility and dedication to take on employment in addition to the other areas of their life.
Okay, great. So thinking back to the beginning of the presentation when you were talking about or introducing the strong interest inventory assessments, we have a question about that. So do you recommend taking the strong interest inventory assessment at a certain age or grade level? And then do you find that interests evolve as a student gets older and gains more life experience?
Terrific. So, a very big part of the theory of both the Myers-Briggs and the Strong is that there's a certain consistency over time. Both of those could be administered for individuals who are 14 years of age or older. So I would say that at any point, starting in ninth grade would be very appropriate to take it. And certainly interests do evolve over time in terms of responding to mentors, role models. We do graduate school advising also, and often I ask medical school applicants why they're interested in a particular specialty. And often it's one particular professor or mentor that's had an enormous impact. So I do think interest can evolve over time, but identifying your interest in ninth or 10th grade would be enormously helpful in guiding you to activities that would be a good fit for you during that particular stage of your life.
Okay, that's great. So our next question is about homeschooling. So the question is two parts. We'll do the first first. The first part is how do homeschooling high school students take challenging courses? And I was thinking maybe you could talk a little bit about opportunities to challenge yourself outside of the curriculum, like research and writing contests, things like that.
Absolutely. So, kids who are homeschooled, the curriculum could be very flexible in terms of who is doing the homeschooling. So often it's parents who are homeschooling, and you could look at a variety of high school curriculum and map out curriculum that is appropriate for your student and has a good degree of challenge. So you could still be very challenged in homeschooling. In addition, there are students who take online courses, even if they're going to private or public schools, they want to challenge themselves, for example, with higher level math. So we have students who are taking courses through MOOCs, which are massive online courses such as Coursera or edX. So you could take coding courses online. There are also a variety of online programs. University of Florida, Brigham Young University are two that have exceptional online courses. So there are still many ways that you could challenge yourself even outside of your homeschooled curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And the second part of that is a question that I think would relate to any student, not just homeschooling, but is dual enrollment preferred over AP classes or vice versa?
So with dual enrollment, there's a particular school typically that the course receives the college enrollment, and sometimes only certain colleges will honor that. So the AP is a much more nationally standardized level that is being assessed. So I would opt for AP courses if your school offers them over dual enrollment.
Okay. Those are the questions in the Q&A. So last call for questions. We have another minute.
We welcome questions, even observations. If you have a comment on something that you found particularly interesting, please let us know that as well. On the
Okay.
topic of assessments, we can say that it is one of the best ways for kids to acquire self-awareness. And the high school years are very special times to really look inward and try to understand more about yourself before you head off to college. And we use the strong interest inventory as a framework for this discussion. But the other assessment, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, is equally valuable. And it has 4 dimensions of your personality preference for how you like to receive energy and stimulation, process information, make decisions, and lifestyle preference. And we have administered and interpreted this to over 300 students, as well as many organizations. Every single student has learned something new about themselves that they've translated to how they're going to participate in discussion in classes, or particular electives they're going to take, or summer activities. So we strongly encourage you to consider taking the MBTI, and it's one of the many areas that we absolutely love helping people with.
So we got a question about architecture. So assuming this is an early high school student showing an interest in architecture, the question is, what would be the best course of action for architecture?
Wonderful. We actually had several students over the last 2 years
Yeah.
interested in pursuing architecture. So typically, architecture is not an area that is taught in high school, and it's the same with engineering. So you could try to take courses during the summer. There are several colleges that offer wonderful 6-week introduction to architecture, also intro to business and engineering and other specialized areas like that. In addition, we have had students do internships with architects and shadow architects. And by the way, we did a deep dive, as we always do, with how to study architecture in college. So there are programs that combine a bachelor's and a master's degree in architecture in college, or if you do not study architecture at all in college, then you may need to do additional coursework if you pursue a master's program.
Wonderful.
So at this point, we are nearing the end. We would like to thank you for your engagement and attention and your wonderful questions. We love questions. We love doing complimentary 30-minute consultations. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You can sign up also for our newsletter. And now I turn the floor back to Christine.
Thank you so much, both of poll that hopefully everybody you know the answer to. Feel free to answer multiple questions for question number 1 only answer one question for question number 2, or it'll be very confusing. But just like the opening poll, it'll be up just for a quick split second. And as you do, I just wanted to let you know that the recording will be sent out to everybody. So if you were taking notes, if you were not paying attention because you were taking notes, or if you just want to review any of the amazing, amazing information that Julie Raynor Gross presented, you will have a recording of that within the next 5 to 7 business days. Please check your spam or junk mail folders if you do not immediately receive it. And if you do have any follow-up questions for us at Apple Ruth specifically, or if you don't get the recording, you can email us at info@appleruth.com, or you can call us at 866-789-PREP. Very easy to remember, 866-789-PREP. Again, for any of those tutoring options, you are welcome to give us a call to meet with one of our dedicated program directors. The nice thing is that program director follows not only your student through their whole tutoring process, but also any siblings your student has. So that way they go from tutor matching through that whole phone and email consultation to learn your student's score goals, learning type, their own personality, as well as the personality preferences of a tutor, and of course your student's schedule, because all of that plays a huge factor in scheduling and selecting their very best tutor match. And we do offer complimentary practice tests every weekend. I had some great questions in the chat about SAT versus ACT, and it's not one-dimensional. Yes, the ACT is a speed test, but the SAT does test at 11th grade reading level, whereas the ACT tests at a 9th grade speed level reading level. However, the SAT is about half math, but the SAT only goes up to Algebra 1, ACT goes up to Algebra 2. We have a whole chart on it. You can email us for that chart, but the best way to try on both tests for size is to go to appleruth.com, click resources, and take a complimentary practice test of both to see which one you like better, because most students favor one over the other. Colleges don't have a preference of test. They just want to see a strong score on one or the other. And in August, we're doing an exciting event called Smart Start, where it's a big national practice test complimentary campaign with complimentary review sessions, and you can sign up for that as well. So thank you so much for attending, and keep a lookout for tonight's recording in your inboxes.
Christine, thank you for the opportunity. I so much enjoyed presenting and receiving those terrific questions.
Oh, of course. Thank you for presenting, and thank you everybody for spending your thrilling Thursday night with us. We know you could have been so many places, but we really, really appreciate you investing in your collegiate future and spending it with us, with Julie Raynor Gross and with Apple Ruth.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you all. Please fill out the poll. And